Coming up on this episode of Control Talk Now.
I don't know whether you know how brilliant that is. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody that took that approach.
You know, this business is moving pretty much faster than anybody else's.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're either in front of it or you're getting run over. Who are you? And what can I do to help you achieve the goals that you have?
And welcome to episode 414 of Control Talk Now, where we talk about all things HVAC and smart building controls, including sales and marketing. My name is Eric Stromquist, and I have some exciting updates for you today. First off, have you seen our newly redesigned website? The design team and I worked very hard and put a lot of thought into how we can make the control trends experience better for our viewers, and hopefully we nailed it. We wanted a cleaner, sleeker look that was easy to read, easy to navigate, and also offered advertisers the best possible way to share their messages. So now you can not only sponsor an episode like this one, you can also advertise using banner ads to maybe use both to reach the global control trends community and give them your message. And speaking of our audience, we've changed our email game. Instead of bombarding you with updates every time you post, we're sending out only highlights maybe once or twice a week. But let's face it, nobody likes spam. So I promise you that I'll never spam you, and I will never, ever, ever share your information with anybody else. And speaking of cool, I recently went to Controls Con, and wow, it was a blast. Scott Cochran and his team really outdid themselves this year. I mean, I could go on and on, but I did write a post about it on ControlTrends.com yesterday, which you can check out. So here's also a short clip of me and Scott at the show. All right, man, Eric Stromquist here. Controls Con is winding down. I'm here with Scott Cochran. Dude, big props, man. Well done.
Thank you.
Can't tell you how great it is, man. And,
Thank you, Eric.
And industry icon, industry making it happen. Dude, tell me, did it blow you away? It blew me away. I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be this good.
So I was blown away by the content, and I was really blown away by the comments I got. But the thing that I loved the most was watching the network. And we're so fortunate at Cochran Supply that we work with so many different people, and I love seeing them all together in one place.
Well, you know, it's kind of cool, too, because with your expansion, it's kind of like we got people from all across the country coming here.
Yeah, we did.
And our European fans want to know, when are you going to open in Europe? Our audience in India wants to know, when are you coming to India? Because, you know,
When are you opening my branches in?
There you go. You heard it here right on Control Trends. Hey, listen, we're be posting a lot of content about the Controls Con. I know Cochran is. He's got a great marketing guy, Joe Guzman. Joe's going to be posting a lot of stuff. If you couldn't make it, you definitely want to check the content out.
We'll be sharing a lot of our videos. They'll be free to the community, so please take some time and join us. And thank you for being here, Mr. Legend.
I appreciate you.
For all of your audience, in case you didn't know, we will be highlighting Eric as a legend in this industry in the next 2 minutes.
Well, there we go. Thanks so much, Scotty. Appreciate you, brother. Well done, man. This got awesome, or what? It was really a great show. And hey, man, stay tuned, because I'll be posting some great videos and interviews from the show in the next couple weeks. Our sponsor this week is Controls Group North America.
The world of distribution is undergoing an incredible transformation, and if you want to be at the forefront of the change, then you need to join a community that is working towards redefining supply chains. CGNA is that community. By bringing together the best distributors with innovative manufacturers, we are changing the game by finding ways to solve problems, cut costs, and increase market share for our members. As a member of CGNA, you'll have access to exclusive resources, expertise, and knowledge, including access to intermember inventory. As a manufacturer, you have the opportunity to reach over 208 locations with the support of highly trained and motivated CGNA members. Together, we're redefining distribution and creating real value for our customers. So why not be part of something bigger than yourself? Join CGNA and let's ride the waves of change together. Welcome to a world where synergy reigns supreme.
So if you want to be a sponsor of the show, just click on the link in the show notes. And by the way, if you go like, well, that's really cool, but I don't know how I would create a commercial like that. No problem. I can create one for you. Just like the one I did for Controls Group North America. So hit me up and let's make some marketing magic together. I feel like I say this every week, but I am super, super, super excited about my guest this week. Not only is he a friend, he's one of the most incredible individuals I've ever known. His name is Stephen Johnson. He is the vice president of automation and controls at one of my favorite contractors, McKenneys, here in Atlanta. Stephen, man, thanks for taking some time to talk with me and our community.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity to spend time with an old, new, young friend and take some time this afternoon to talk about some great topics.
Oh yeah, well we're gonna rock it for sure. But I guess the best way, Stephen, is you have one of the most fascinating backstories of sort of anybody I know. So walk our audience, through your journey and maybe some of the people you work with along the way and what you did, because you had some interesting jobs.
Sure. So I started in the late 1990s. I grew up in the restaurant business. And then in the late 1990s, I went to work for Chick-fil-A corporate office as a janitor. And it was young in my life. I wanted to get married and get a good jump start on life. But I realized pretty quickly that you needed a job and you needed benefits and you needed to do all the things that it takes to pull off a family life. And so at Chick-fil-A, I was there for 17 and a half years. I did all kind of roles there and ended up leading a lot of their different groups on their corporate campus, including being mentored directly by Truett Cathy and spending some time. As you and I were talking a little bit earlier, I found this picture. I actually keep this on my desk in my office in Atlanta. This is me and Truett Cathy in 1997.
Wow.
I think that was actually at my, what do you call those things, like a wedding shower right before Sabrina and I got married. So it was cool to call him a friend and mentor. And so I grew up there. And then in 2013.
Well, Stephen, hang on one second, because we have a global audience and even, I don't know how far Chick-fil-A goes, but for our audience who might not know, if you're in the South, if you've been to Chick-fil-A, you know what it's all about. But for people who don't, tell them what it's about. So when our friends from London or France come over, they're definitely going to check this out, right?
Sure. So Chick-fil-A was founded in 1946 by Truett Cathy. Post-World War II type entrepreneurial spirit business. Basically, in the United States, this guy was the guy that invented the chicken sandwich. And then in 1967, he took it to more of a fast casual type concept and started opening restaurants literally all over the United States. Now they're starting to open in multiple countries now as part of their growth plan. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. And they have done a lot of good. Their charitable side, their giving back to the community is probably one of the best I've seen. So it was a great company to grow up in, learn about leadership, learn about servant leadership, learn about helping people, and just a great way to grow up in business from one of the real deal leaders that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, that's a lot to unpack because Truett Cathy, a great leader. And I want to talk about some of the things you learned from him. But one of the things, to give you an example of Truett Cathy and his principles, just from an outsider looking in, Chick-fil-A is not open on Sundays because I guess, Truett's a fairly religious fellow and he walks his talk, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, that's a funny story in and of itself because, back in the day, it was absolutely for religious reasons, but it was also something for a very simple reason that all of us leaders can learn from today. And that is, if you're already working 6 other days a week, you got to have a day to rest.
Yeah.
And so it was both rest and faith-based and an opportunity for him to spend time with his family. You got to think about it. This decision was made long before all of us were addicted to our technologies and all that kind of stuff. So if he saw that need to rest, reflect, and refresh, back in the 40s, certainly we need it today,
Well, and it shows me that he's thinking about his employees too, because I can tell you one of the things when I go to a Chick-fil-A that I notice outside of the exceptional quality of the food is the people that work there are engaged and they're happy and it's clear that they're motivated. So I suspect there was a rhyme or reason to how Truett did that.
Absolutely. I mean, everything was deliberate and it was on purpose, but at the same time, it was just a very natural outcome of who he was. Just thinking back to that, their whole model there was based on character, competence, and basically charisma. And you see that all throughout their stores, obviously character first, And then can they do the job, and how well are they going to relate to the people that they're going to serve? And I think that's also a great model that we can use today.
True or not, at one point in time you were his bodyguard?
So I don't know that any of us called anything. I don't know that's the right terminology back in the day, but I did get to do some very cool stuff. So before Chick-fil-A started having airplanes and all that kind of stuff, Truett did a lot of speaking engagements, and I was one of his original drivers. So, I'd do my janitor stuff during the day, and then we would go change clothes, jump in a car, and drive anywhere in the United States to go do speeches. But that sounds like an interesting thing in and of itself. But what I really learned early was to take a small business card and write down 2 or 3 questions, because you're a captive audience, right? I've got the smartest, richest dude I've ever met in my entire life in a car sitting beside me for multiple hours at a time. I'm not going to waste this time. So what I learned was always come with 2 or 3 questions to something that's going to help me be a much better person and leader as I grew up in business. So
wow,
what a rewarding time.
Yeah, no, but what a great takeaway. Just that piece right there, Stephen. When you're going to be around successful people, always have 1 or 2 questions you can ask. And of course, I've got to ask, give me an example, a couple of the questions you asked Truett.
So you got to think. Truett grew up in business at a whole different time. He grew up in a society where, there were issues, there was civil unrest, there was all kind of things going on in our country. And so I would ask him questions like, how did you integrate your business? Or, man, nobody else is doing this. Why are you closed on Sunday? Or why have you been business partners with Coca-Cola Company since the early 40s? And why aren't you looking at somebody else? Or why would you have the longevity in these business partnerships and relationships? And the answers were just absolutely amazing. I literally watched him just so many lives that guy touched. He was the real deal 24/7. So,
well, I got to ask, because especially in today's market, for example, where we see, vendors changing distributors and integrators changing, partners. It's a pretty common occurrence. Do you remember what Truett said when you said, well, why have you been with Coca-Cola all these years and haven't looked someplace else?
It's real simple. When he was a little boy, they gave him a chance. You got to think about the life that these guys grew up in, a post-Depression era. Really, he was born in 1921, so he was all through the Depression. And the only way that a family could make a living was recycle Coke bottles, buy Cokes, 6 for a nickel and sell them, 6 for 10 cents or whatever. So even as a little kid, he was slinging newspapers and he was doing business with the Coca-Cola Company. Same thing with Ford Motor Company. The Ford Motor Company Haydenville assembly plant was right across the street from his first restaurant. So for years, 95% of the cars that he bought and sold were Ford. And that was hundreds of thousands of cars, because he gave cars away all the time.
Wow.
He'd buy 60 cars at a time, and they were all from Ford, just because Ford was loyal to his early restaurant that day, that period of time.
Yeah, Stephen, it's, my dad was like that. He remembered the people that helped him. And I suspect, your dad was the way. I think you're that way. Do you think that's gone out with as the greatest generation sort of leaving our industry? Do you think that's less of a factor now? Or do you think people still sort of remember when people helped them up and there's a loyalty factor there?
That's a great question. And the reason it's a great question is because we are living through the commodity effect. We're living through the Amazon effect as we speak. So it's interesting. I teach my sales team right now in 2023 that your goal as a sales professional, a sales account manager, not just a salesperson, is to help that new young building engineer to grow into their career, because hopefully that person's going to stick with you for 20 years.
Yeah.
So we definitely teach and model that here. I do not want vendors. I want business partners.
Yeah.
It takes so long to onboard a new vendor, if you will, or a new product line or whatever it is. And we'll do it, but you're so much better off, both from the people side and the vendor side, to take care of the ones you got and to nurture that relationship and not just view everything as disposable anymore, you know?
Well, yeah, I think you and I have that in common. And I think when we first met, I mean, that was one of the first conversations, we had is we were both looking for a partnership. And then I think we were just both really upfront about what that partnership would look like. And I think we both, part of that for us, and this is, I'm this way with my clients, I think you are with yours, is I'm never going to ask you to do something that's not in your best interest. And, if you have to do something else, then, I understand because I'm in it for the long haul with you, right?
Well, I also remember, I mean, and this is one of the things that I've stolen from Stromquist quite a bit. So good leaders steal things from other people. And by that, I specifically mean great ideas or great leadership and business truth. And the specific thing that I'm stealing from you was practice good care. And I remember you telling me the story of how you got that directly from your father, but that's so important. I mean, it's important for your customers. It's important for your team. Basically in the heritage of our company, John McKenneys' father, David, he said it like this: treat your employees the way you want them to treat your customers.
Nice.
And so just thinking about that. And the other leg to this stool that I think about is trust. So you either trust somebody or you're always suspicious. Those are the only two options, right? So, and trust is earned. Thinking about just our history, I don't think that we've necessarily had a great big fight, but we've had heated discussions on what's going to be best for the marketplace, both of our businesses. And that's where trust and businesses get strengthened, is when they are working to solve complex issues and grow our businesses,
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
There you go.
Well, I'm totally screwing this up, but I'm so excited talking to you. I'm really jumping ahead. So where I left you last, you were Truett Cathy's driver, bodyguard.
There you go.
So where did you, so what happened next?
Wow. So throughout the 2000s, I guess, when you ride around in a car with somebody for a long time, you learn a lot about them and both me. So I did some restaurant work for him. I did some innovation work for him. I did a lot of work around his campus. I did a lot of work at their homes. But in 2013, life was changing for me. I have a very big family and we were in the middle of adopting more children. And I just realized that I was no longer in a place where I needed to give so much of my attention to business. So I made a very abrupt right turn change. Back in the late 90s, I had done a lot of building maintenance type stuff, as I mentioned earlier. I'd done a lot of automation controls, electrical, plumbing, heating and air, you name it, all the things you do when you take care of property. And so I actually, a mutual friend of ours, Fred Gordy, and I, we were talking, and he's like, man, you really should just come check out McKenneys. I came to McKenneys almost with a blindfold on. I was looking for a change, and I said, let's do it. It's just one of those things you wake up, and sometimes you just got to jump. So I jumped, started as an entry-level field supervisor here at McKenneys, and spent quite a bit of time just growing up a little bit in this business, learning our craft, learning our teammates, learning the people. Forget the rest. Learn the people. You learn the people, you're in great shape, right? Products are going to come and go, but your core people, that's where it's at. So that's how I got here. And then, over a very short span of time, our business is evolving. If you are a direct follower of Control Trends, Eric, his team, his family, this business is moving pretty much faster than anybody else's.
Yeah.
And you're either in front of it or you're getting run over. So
well said. Said.
That's kind of where we've been.
I want to hop back and get some more, I want you to expound upon learn the people. I think that is absolutely brilliant. I think at the end of the day, whether it's a vendor customer relationship or employee relationship, leader employee, at the end of the day, I believe it's back to, it's always a people business. If your people skills are good, you're going to be successful. So when you talk about you learn the people, for our audience out there, can you walk them through a couple of examples of how to do that? If they go, that sounds like a great idea, but how do I do that?
Sure. So just reflecting a little bit back on our conversation earlier, one of those questions that Truett Cathy answered for me was, he said, look, Stephen, I'm not in the chicken business. I'm in the people business. So you got to start there. The next thing would be, when I came here, what I realized is, talking about trust earlier, why should these 75 men and women trust me? They don't know me. As far as they knew, I just sold chicken. Just a few weeks earlier, I was frying fries and cooking chicken. What did this guy know about people? What did he know about automation and control? So what I realized early was I had to have 75 lunches, and I had to have it pretty quick. And I could only ask two questions. And it really came down to this: who are you, and what can I do to help you achieve the goals that you have?
Wow!
And I literally, that first year, I crowned the company in expense reports because it was a breakfast, a lunch, a coffee, and literally every day with at least 75 people, because that's the only way to get it done.
Dude, just stop for a second. I don't know whether you know how brilliant that is. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody that took that approach. And for our audience out there, I just want to really reiterate, man. I mean, who are you and how can I help you accomplish your goals? Dude,
So think about that. If I would have tried to have those meetings in a sterile office or cubicle, that's a totally different, that feels like you did something in high school and it's time to pay the tax, right? So you solve most of your problems across the table from somebody. If you're doing it right, I don't care what job it is, what role it is, what company, what product, things get solved with the right hand of fellowship and breaking bread. And I personally drink a lot of coffee. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I tell you, if I can attest firsthand, if you ever get to have lunch with Steven Johnson, if he ever invites you to lunch, take him up on the invitation, because not only will you have some of the most interesting conversation you've ever had, and one of the best times you have, you also eat the best food you've ever had, because Steven knows at least two things that I'm aware of. One is automation controls. Well, let's say three: people and good food.
Nice. Well, I unfortunately that hasn't helped me with my waistline, but it has helped a lot in business. We'll give it that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, okay, so you took over at McKenneys, and I talked to Rob Allen, and I've had some other leaders on the show, where as a new leader, you come in, and you've had some history with these people, but as I said on another episode, I mean, anytime you're asked to come in and lead a new group, it's typically not good news, meaning that either, the person leading before you has done really well and has got promoted, in which case, not only are you expected to at least maintain or don't screw that up, you're also being expected to improve, or the other leader wasn't doing the job, in which case you're coming in to fix it and get people to do stuff the previous leader couldn't do. And generally, people, even good people, don't necessarily like change. So you step into the role at McKenneys, and big company, successful building automation controls company. You, I guess, the first order of business, you did your 75 lunches, but after that, walk people that might find themselves into a similar situation where now they've been thrust into leadership, and the team they're leading maybe is not necessarily too happy about them being there.
So, I mean, the baseline that you have in all of this is you've got people. And every single morning, most people that you're going to meet out there, they get up and say, I want to be successful today. I want to do a good job. I want to go home feeling like I accomplished something today. So, backing up just a little bit, I think hopefully whoever's listening to this chose well. It was not an accident that I came to McKenneys. I was McKenneys' customer for years and years and years before I came here. So if you've got a great brand and a great family that you already work for, you've already got some pretty high fences, really. And so, again, the key to the whole thing is you've got to find this group of people that want to be successful. They're already experts in their craft. Somebody else did that for me. There are really, really smart and talented people here at this organization. So all I've got to do is help to point them in the direction that we all know we should go. Let me tell you, I'm an Apple fanatic. I'm a nerd. I get it. I own it. But I mean, think about the most famous Steve Jobs quote that floats around out there. You don't hire good people and you start telling them what to do. You leverage the people that you have to tell you what you should be doing.
Nice.
They're so smart. What am I going to come in and tell these people?
Yeah.
I flipped chicken a week earlier, right?
Yeah.
So these guys are the experts. All I have to do is let's take what we already have and just apply basic customer service and let's take the best product that we can find, go back to the restaurant days, the best ingredients we can find with the best craftspeople that we can find, giving out the best customer service that we can give. And I don't care what industry you're in. That is the only recipe for success. Period.
Makes so much sense, Stephen. And it especially makes sense because to me, it's really two steps from what I've heard you. The first is you get to know them and you ask that question, what is it that you want to accomplish? And like you said earlier. And then the second one is then you just empower them to do it, right?
Sure. And I mean, please, you got to understand, this is an intimidating story. I mean, here I am, it's me against 75. And I mean, it literally felt like that. Who am I? I'm walking into people that are experts in their field, and I'm trying to get my bearings and see what's actually going on in this organization. Where are we? Right? Because I mean, you know this as well. You've got to figure out where you are before you can even bother to figure out where you're going.
Yes.
So that was an intimidating time, but man, it was so rewarding. And some of the deepest friendships I have came from 75 lunches in 2013.
Wow. Well,
and maybe that's the title of our section.
75 lunches.
75 lunches
I love
in 2013.
I love it. Stephen, what I also hear embedded in this is, and Rob mentioned this, Rob Allen from, who's running Stromquist and Company for us now, he mentioned the importance of humility. And and Rob sort of defined it. It's not like, oh, shucks. It's more along the lines of being willing to ask for help and say when you don't know. And I get from you that, I've always thought of you as a very powerful, dynamic leader, but I've always thought of you as a very humble person at the same time. Describe your definition of humility for me.
Well, I think it's what you just said. I mean, there's two of the most powerful statements that a leader can make. Let's say that again. There are two very powerful statements that a leader can make. Number one is the word no. One no opens up 1,000 yeses. So it's all about your priority and you getting to be in control of what is important for you, your family, your business, that kind of thing. But with regard to humility, it's exactly what you just said. It is being able to say, I do not know. It might be paired with, let's go find out together. That's probably the most powerful pairing because then you both learn something.
Yeah,
but
that's great.
Again, man, especially in this industry, there is nobody that can know everything. There's just not. And I think the most powerful companies are the people that have learned how to use a telephone. And yes, I said telephone. I didn't say iPhone. I didn't say all these other things, but you learn things by calling in your lifeline, right? And having somebody on the other end of that phone that'll answer. That's probably one of the greatest gifts we can give each other in business is just answer the freaking phone.
Yeah.
So being willing to say, I don't know, man. And let me tell you, there's not a day goes by that I don't make that statement. I do not know the answer to this. We've got to go figure this out. Cycle
into McKenneys automation, what you guys do different and sort of what's your vision and for our end users, our consulting engineers, our building owners that listen to the podcast, what do people expect from their integrator and what makes McKenneys different?
Sure. So, I mean, we are currently in a very unique time to be in any kind of automation and technology business. You've got fantastic new news stories coming every single day about artificial intelligence and about all the newest, latest, greatest things. My job is to move from ideation into production, to actually do the things that everybody else is talking about. So I love where we are. I mean, you're always going to have your need for people that put in thermostats and lighting control and that kind of thing. But it's a great time to be in this space because it's so much more. We also are in a time when, again, back to people, that's your most important resource that you have, and there is scarcity there. So how do I leverage automation, not to replace people, but to supplement and augment the human factor in operating all these wonderful facilities that we have in the southeastern United States? So specifically, what we're doing is we are building, creating, leveraging, integrating a multiplicity of new technologies today to make these buildings run more efficiently, and just better. I mean, I think back to the 90s when I was trying to manage buildings, and the rule just was the phone rings, you get in your car and you go. Now you can run a 60-story building from your iPhone sitting on the beach. So it's just a fantastic time to be in this space. But I would say this: take care of the customers, put in the best possible products that are in the marketplace, and then let's make the products that exist and the new stuff that's coming out be integrated to its absolute fullest potential possible. There's so many features to these products. You know this. You're the product guy, right?
Right.
There's so many features we're not even using yet, right? So it is very important to let's see everything that we want this property to experience. And it's just a great time to be in this business.
Well, and I'll tell you, Stephen, something too at Stromquist. I mean, we're pretty selective about the integrators we work with and the products we handle. And I think, and part of the reason we pick you guys, and when I say that, is because you can promise an owner anything. You can say your product does stuff and maybe even believe it does, but it hadn't been tested. My take on McKenneys and our other integrators is if you guys look an owner in the eye and say, this is going to work, it's going to work. You're not testing stuff out. You're not doing theory on them. It's proven technology. You do the testing on your own time and your own workbench. A fair statement?
It is. But I mean, there's an additional piece to it. And here's what it is. And this is painful. So here we go. I had a reminder just last week of a property that we built in about 2014. And I literally found out last week that there are some components in logic and algorithms that have never worked right. So I bet, because you know me and you know our business, what is my answer? You guys are going to go fix it. We've got a team of people $25,000 deep in making this thing that we told them in 2014 was going to work right. It's going to work right. Yeah. That is in a nutshell who McKenneys is it's going to work right.
I love it, man. I love it. Before I ask you a couple of closing questions, how do people get hold of McKenneys?
Oh, absolutely, man. So you can always send me an email at stephen.johnson@mckenneys.com. You can always call our dispatch, and I'm going to give you this number right here in front of me. Our dispatch line is 404-622-5000. That's a 24-hour number, 404-622-5000. Again, it's our job to take care of your property, not just from 8 to 5 every day. So we're here for you. I think over Christmas, we had the great flood of 2022 this past year. I think Christmas Day, we dispatched 71 technicians here in Atlanta on Christmas Day that were willing to leave their families. Look, we're serious about the customer thing. Okay. These are just, even though our name is not on the deed, these are just as much our buildings as they are our customers. And so we're very passionate about that.
Stephen, I've been doing, but my dad did business with David McKenneys' dad. I've done business with, John and I've known McKenneys people over the years. They come on the counter, I talk to them, and you're absolutely right. I mean, to a T, I don't think they pass muster with you guys unless they have that sort of attitude. And so I applaud you guys for that. I applaud you for, carrying the torch forward and moving automation to the next level. And I kind of want to end with, I know you're a voracious reader like most leaders are. Give our community a book recommendation, if you would.
Oh, wow. So that is very timely. Literally last week, I was on vacation and I got to read 6 books last week because I had a lot of free time. This guy right here, here's a funny story. Rob Allen gave me this book. Nice. And The Power to Change. And it starts with, this was the statement that struck me. It said this, basically all of the small things, by that I mean training and things that you put into being a leader that you do in private are what makes you great in public. Nice. So you got to think about it, 10,000 hours of practice before you can become an expert. You got to think it's the little things, the small habits that we as leaders do every single day before we're really qualified to talk to anybody about this business we call leadership.
Well, and I think what I hear you saying in that is for our younger listeners out there, start now. You don't have to be actually leading the group, but show up as a leader underneath people. I mean, do your job, have the integrity, develop these traits. Because you and I both know, I mean, you can meet somebody and right off the bat when you look them in the eye if they're solid, right? And if they're solid, then you're going to do business with them. And I think that's the best thing you can do for your business is have integrity like McKenneys does and like you do. Make sure your people are in a position that they can do the right thing, and the business will follow.
And trust them to do it. I mean, that's another piece is you hire fantastic people, and all you do is give them the right training and tools and get out of the way.
All right, buddy. I'm going to ask you to do this before we end it. You got to take your camera. Let's show our community what what the enlightened executive in Smart Building Controls office looks like.
Oh wow! All right, so here's the short version. So this is our desk. Notice books. More books. Yeah.
Well, hang on. Whoa. What's in the cabinet? Is that where you keep your Jack Daniels?
Oh no, fresh out of Jack Daniels. That is probably more books that I couldn't fit on the shelf.
Gotcha. Okay.
When you take the spin, this is for when meetings get boring. You grab a guitar,
there you go.
Do a little practicing.
Love it.
That kind of thing. So that's the nickel tour of my.
Well, you got a keyboard in there too, don't you?
Yeah, that's right there.
There you go. Well,
what I would basically say is that and $5 will get you a cup of coffee. So.
Well, I think, and we can't do this on this show, but if you ever get a chance to meet Stephen, he does a tremendous amount in the community. He's a musician, a really great musician. Believe it or not, our buddy we mentioned earlier, Fred Gordy's a great musician too. Mm-hmm. So I encourage you, if ever get a chance to sit down and talk to this man, don't miss the opportunity. Stephen Johnson, man, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
Thanks for the time, man. There is comfort in being uncomfortable. So it was a fun day, and thanks for taking some time to spend with me today.
Okay, so that's another week on Control Talk Now. A special thanks to our guest, Stephen Johnson. He was awesome. Next week, my guest will be Fred Gordy. But until then, remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant, subscribe to the newsletter, and remember what one of my favorite writers of all times used to say, buy the ticket, take the ride. We'll see you next week.
Focus, I can't even control it.